So a lot of it is holding on to your femininity, embracing your feminine side, and holding on to your power. Where have we learned this? When do we learn this? That's my big question. Is this something innate that we're supposed to know?
I know. I don't think. I mean, I was never taught that. To be fully transparent, like, I wasn't even taught about sex till the night before I got married.
Oh, I'm amazed that you learned it then. Because a good Texas girl doesn't do those things.
No, right? But it's just this. I don't know. Like, for me to navigate that whole thing through my, in my own life, in my own journey, it was interesting because, I had been in this marriage, and, that's a whole other topic we can get on to another time, but
we must. I'll force you.
I literally lost or forgot who I was, and when I went back into being, the single mom, into the space of being a single mom, and I was like, oh, I can do this if I want. Oh, we can have breakfast for dinner. Like, I mean, it was just the littlest things that were so
I can buy smooth peanut butter.
Right?
I remember that very well.
And so it was this whole process to where for 8.5 years, I was a single mom of 3 boys. So when I met Rick, I was happily single, man. I was that go-getter. It was like, yeah, I can get things done, make it happen. I had my routine. I was, doing my thing. And he enters, and he's literally said to me, and what did you need me for?
Oh, yes.
And I was like, oh, wow. And he didn't know where he belonged in my life, in our family,
Because you'd had to suck it up, so to speak, and you were on your trajectory. I remember you were blazing a trail. You still are. It's just adjusted some.
Yes, absolutely. And I really had to take a step back and be like, gosh, did I even leave room for him in my closet? I mean, literally, I could just, kind of feel.
You put him in a closet, Christy?
What? For his clothes.
Oh, okay, got it.
Room for him?
I was like, that is some interesting stuff there.
No, because I'm just thinking, I had taken up the whole closet. I had taken up the whole bathroom.
Yes.
And so then it was like, gosh, did I even leave room for him to put his things into the closet? For him to put things into, I wasn't making space for him. And Rick has been my greatest teacher on receiving. Like, I have never felt so loved and so nurtured by someone as I have him. And but you know what I did, Tammy, is that whole dynamic again of losing yourself in the relationship or letting go of yourself was that I didn't know how to receive, so I self-sabotaged. I sabotaged the receiving, that it had to look up a certain way before I'd be willing to accept it or do it or be it, And so, yeah, I wasn't good at receiving. I wasn't good being in the feminine energy at all. And so it's been a whole process, which the side effects of that, of learning that, have been the blazing the trail even bigger, having a higher influence, bigger impacts, and more money flowing in. That's the funny thing, is that's what's happened. But, until I married Rick, when I married Rick, I mean, I was, like you said, I was trailblazing, I was doing all these things. When I finally relaxed into that, I ended up writing 2 books, traveling the country 2 times, doing book tours, doing, like, the biggest dream I've ever lived in my whole life happened when we were balanced in that feminine masculine together. Like, it's really that incredible.
So that begs the question, can I fully embrace my feminine if I'm not with a partner who doesn't embrace their masculine, feminine? In other words, can I fully embrace both if they're not?
Well, yeah, there's got to be, it is a balance because we have both feminine and masculine in us.
Yes.
But if we're predominantly masculine, then it's out of balance, right? So it's got to go back to how can I balance the masculine, the feminine. And I'll tell you, this is the stuff, though, with these couples when they say we've never been this connected in our whole marriage. That is the balance we're helping them learn to create, is that, because really we don't know how to do that. We're not taught how to do that as a couple, right?
No, we're not.
And the masculine, the container I think of for the masculine is, if you can think of kind of a water bottle, it's the container that holds the fluid in it, the emotions, having that masculine energy to hold someone in the space so that the feminine energy, so that they can flow through their emotions and things. That's the masculine energy. And we as partners get to be that for each other, often in that energy. And then the feminine, it's the receiving. It's the receiving the pleasure. It's receiving the love, the connection, the nurturing, right? So if we can balance that in each other and be that as partners, like, it's incredible. Like, I can't even describe the power that gives you as a couple to do that, to do all you want.
That's in line. I did a show on Mars and Venus, Dr. John Gray's work, and it's totally in line with that a male, his whole purpose is to problem solve and to provide and to take care, but the big block is a lot of times we women are not willing to be vulnerable enough to receive because of our wounds, because I have to suck it up, I have to do, and until we're able to do that, they can't fully be and do what they do. And so there's a breakdown there.
Absolutely, there's a breakdown, and it's the funny thing is it's actually so primal in us. As much as we try to fight it and be like, no, I'm going to do this, I'm going to be the doer, it's really instinctually even in us that we want our men to show up in this way, in this masculine, and they want their women, and when there's a huge imbalance, there's usually an imbalance of who's controlling the relationship. That there's this, one of them is predominantly controlling and the other is, predominantly following, and that's an imbalance right there.
It is.
It's not an ownership of self. And so it's really fascinating to watch. Like, I love watching humans be humans.
Yes.
It's so fascinating to me. But what's funny is that when we are blocking ourselves from receiving, we're really shortchanging ourselves from our own desires. And when we want to control or be in the, I'm in the power seat, we're, again, shortchanging ourselves. So there has to be, like you said, that place of vulnerability, of willing to open up and receive. And it is so beautiful. Even sex becomes, kind of other realms.
Sex.
Yes. It's incredible, the deep connection of what can happen even sexually when you're in this place with each other. And it's something we crave, truly, to be in that space together.
Well, and I'm shocked and saddened at how many, particularly women, not to pick on the women, particularly women who have never really been able to fully experience and feel their body in ecstasy.
Right? I wish I could remember, and maybe I can give you the link, but there's a TED Talk about this deep hunger in a woman.
Yes.
To have this receiving energy and really fully be into it, and that the part of our body that we can actually experience that in, and how many women actually aren't having orgasm, which is part of the pleasure and receiving of things.
Even our anatomy is made up to receive.
Yes, right? It's so clear. And so there's this deep hunger that's never fed, so we're out there trying to feed it in all these other ways.
Yes.
When it's right there, it costs no money, and it's so easily accessible. So yeah, I am saddened too. When I first, we did a speaking kind of book tour for a year, and there was a part of my presentation where I would go into sex and things, and I remember this happened over and over and over. I would be speaking, and I'd say, I'd talk about sex, and I'd say, that kind of sex where you're just like almost in another world, and you're weeping, like there's so much emotion that it's like a weeping. It's not like a crying, but it's a weeping, and it's so intense, just
like a guttural feeling,
connection, and it's like no, not that I've ever taken drugs, but no drug even tops that feeling, and it's like this ecstasy, this pleasure. And these women are sitting there with their mouths wide open, and they're like, no.
Wow. Actually, it's like, dopamine, so it is the same as the feeling of a drug.
Yeah, and I would say, have you not experienced that? And they're like, no. And it was, the majority in the room would say, absolutely not. I have never experienced that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, do you have any idea what you're missing out on? Like so to have that connection and a partner that you can, go to that place with it's a spiritual. I'll go as far as it is really a deeply spiritual connection, and such openness and vulnerability that it's kind of a surrender. And
it is absolutely a surrender.
Incredibly beautiful. Yeah.
So we're fairly clear that we need to work on our ability to receive. Any thoughts on what the male can do, our partners can do, to help us to get into that place? What do they need to do or not do? Any ideas on that?
Well, in receiving, number one, we as women truly need to get in tune to what our needs are and ask for them.
Yes.
And I know that there's, this fear of what if my needs aren't met, so we don't even speak up and ask for them, right? But number one, get in tune to what your needs actually are. And just a real quick snippet on that, I remember, having conversations with Rick, and we would be in conflict or something, and he would say, what do you need from me right now? And Tammy, I literally didn't know. And I would say, I would just go speechless, because I hadn't really had that safety of someone asking me that in my life.
Or I'll be so geared up to battle that the question would throw me off, because if you give me what I need, I can't be at battle, which is where I'm comfortable.
Yes, absolutely. So that isn't that funny? I mean, that's the thing, is like we've got to put down our swords for one.
Yes.
For one. But that would be something, your husband could, or partner, could say, what do you need from me right now? And then you going into, what do I need? Like, get in tune to your body and what you need. Another that I would recommend, and this is really, really healing for women. I don't know if it might be too much for some, but there's actually an oming video on receiving for women. Have you seen this?
I haven't.
It's actually an exercise that you can do with your mate on receiving, and it's purely about receiving. It's not even finishing up with intercourse or even being sexual. It is so beyond healing, and it's really being seen as a woman. And then kind of an oming exercise that you do while he is giving and you're receiving. So that's something else I could suggest. And another would be to know and learn how you are pleasured, to know what your brakes and your accelerators are, to be vocal about them. And
Which
when they're
sometimes
given,
maybe exploring it, you may not know until you know.
absolutely, yeah.